Maybe I am trying to breathe, Brandon.
You're tearing our family apart.
Maybe I'm steadily fucking suffocating.
Viewers are like, did you guys run before you sat down? Or, welcome to the United States of Paranormal, where we take a brisk jog before we sit down and record. Jesus fuck.
Welcome to the United States of Paranormal Podcast. Sit down and buckle up for an enlightening ride through everything cryptid, creepy, and paranormal.
Hey listeners, welcome back to another episode of the United States of Paranormal Podcast, where this week on our haunting road trip through the United States of Paranormal, we are going to dive into the small town of Pepperell, Massachusetts in the fall of 1986. Sitting with me is my co-host, the Scully to my Mulder.
Hey.
Matt Frisby. And sitting next to ye ol' Matt Frisby is...
Boze.
Fucking Boze. Like, he had a fucking elongated pause before he announced stuff. We had such a solid flow going. It's like, Boze. But, welcome back, everybody. This week, we are going to be talking about the haunting of the Andrews family, and I'm going to stop swiveling in my chair. So... how's everybody doing this week?
Ready to get spooky.
Are you also ready to get your hand away from your face while you talking to the mic?
Nope.
Okay.
Right here, it's staying.
Fair enough. How about you, Brandon?
I'm just watching Matt try and cover his breathing so it doesn't get into the mic.
Why we gotta address that? Are we gonna cut that out? Are we gonna cut that part out? Do we need to start over again?
This is hurtful. We don't need to start over.
Okay.
All that can be cut out, including every single one of Brandon's speaking parts.
And there's another laugh for the fucking bank of laughs. Okay. But yeah, like I said, this week, I know we did a haunting last time, but, I have a good one. Originally, I had another haunting picked out. I was set for it. I was excited. And I was like, we're doing this thing, and we're not just sticking to Indiana. We're going to break out to everywhere. And I was like, this one sounds interesting. Reading. And meanwhile, it took place in a small town in northern Indiana. And I was like, God, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So we branched out. Not in Indiana. Nothing wrong with Indiana, but try another state here. Don't go back to the same state. We're going to Massachusetts in 1986. So you guys ready to dive into another spooky story?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get spooky.
Alrighty. Well, let's see. Let's get started here. Like I said, this is in a small town called Pepperell, Massachusetts, fall of 1986, where the Andrews family had just tragically lost an amazing wife and loving mother to a long fight with cancer. It's kind of polar opposite of what we went through last time. Last time we went through a household that was just a mother and her children. This time around, it's a single dad and his children. But this time around, there's only two children. And the father's name is Frank Andrews. He would have to lean hard into the work as a local town bus driver to support his two teenage daughters, since now he's a single father, one income.
I am curious to hear how a father deals with the haunting situation.
It's definitely different. I can promise you that. And it usually is, because horror movies always do that shit where the dad's always the shitheel. If he's there, he's an ass.
Yeah, and usually it's the guy who's quickest to go, there's nothing.
Fair enough. So. If it was in your household and Blair was like, I heard a ghost, wouldn't you be like, it's nothing. Okay, well, let's dive back into it. Okay. His youngest daughter, Jessie, is 13 years old, and Annie, who is 16. He would work a lot of night shifts, leaving his daughters to mostly take care of themselves after school, doing everything from chores to cooking their own dinners and even getting to bed at a reasonable time. They were adjusting decently. To all accounts, they were great girls. They had good grades in school. Like I said, they didn't stay up late. They did their chores. They minded everything they needed to. Although the family did run smoothly, the girls still very, very much missed their mother. They were extremely close with her. Clearly, she stayed at home, so when they got out of school, they had their mom to go. She helped them cook dinner. She hung out with them. And now they're adjusting. They're basically by themselves all the time. Just a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old. And they were close, but not super close. You know how you are with a riff like that. Like, you want to do your own thing. I mean, you're not always up each other's butts and everything. That was a great choice of words. But you know what I'm saying. Like, I didn't spend that much time with my sister, and our age gap was a lot different. It wasn't that much. We were closer in age. Mm. She would be 16 when I was 15, and we didn't spend next to any time together. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, how do you feel about it? Did you want to spend all the time with your siblings at that age?
Oh, no, I didn't want to be around my siblings whatsoever.
But like I said, they were extremely close with their mother, and they missed her day-to-day presence. So much so that in June 1987, less than a year after their mother's passing, the girls decided that they would have a seance in their basement. try to contact the spirit of their mother, whom they've been missing a lot. And like, I mean, I don't know you, but that's the fucking beginning of every fucking horror movie is somebody misses somebody, is like, I'm going to talk to the dead person.
Because this has worked out in every other instance.
So they did what, every teenager that wanted to summon a spirit. They scrounged up everything that they could think of. They got candles. They got a Ouija board, of course. They even somehow managed to get their hands on a scrying pendulum crystal. And they headed down to the basement. And why has it got to be the basement? This is a 2-story house with a basement. Why couldn't you just do it in the fucking living room?
Hold on. Let's back up a second. What is a scrying pendulum crystal?
Basically, it is a crystal that usually is picked out to have some kind of like psychic charge that is hanging from a chain that I don't even know how that goes into a seance. I know people use it for scrying on maps and stuff. They were also teenage kids flying by the seat of their pants.
They were just throwing spooky crap at a wall.
See what stuck.
Maybe it was the scrying that led them to the basement.
Who knows? I don't know why or where they got it from, but they probably just seen it somewhere or heard it somewhere and got. Like I said, they scrounged up their spooky kit for beginners and they went to the basement. And like I said, I would have done it in the fucking living room. I wouldn't have done it at all, but if I was gonna do it, I would have did it in a lit area, not a fucking basement. After an hour or so of unsuccessfully trying to speak with their mother, the girl's father returned home from a late shift, so the girls packed up their failed project and went upstairs to finish homework and greet their father. Unknowns to the girls, something was in fact listening, and it was very eager to speak to the girls again. So I'm wondering if they're doing it in the basement, because like the case does state like when their dad got home, they shagged ass. So I wonder if they were doing it in the basement because they didn't want their dad seeing it. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I would probably be upset if I got home and saw my kids trying to summon the spirit of a dead relative or something.
Yeah.
I imagine that would. It hadn't even been a year since she passed, so I imagine that would be, especially if it's your wife that your kids are trying to talk to. I mean, that's also sad and agitating all at once.
Do we know what the religious
They really don't
propensity of the
dive into
family?
that in the
Well,
slightest.
considering what year did you say it was?
1986 and 7,
And you said it was in Boston,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, which is a very Catholic-oriented state.
Yeah, like if they're coming from a religious family, like a father coming home and seeing that be more particularly irate than say a non-religious person coming home and finding his
strangely
kids
enough, they don't dive into that in the slightest in this case at all. So that is a good question though, because I would like to know if it does seem like the fact that they were doing it in the basement, like the last place Dad would come home and look, and then as soon as they heard him come home, they shagged ass. I would say that they were probably scared of him finding out. Later that night, after homework was done and dinner dishes washed and put away, the girls went to bed, only to later be woken up by the sounds of a dull knocking. Nothing jarring, nothing like wake you up bluntly, but enough. It was consistent enough to get the girls up and about. At first, the girls dismissed it until it began to sound less of a house possibly setting and more like a rhythmic knock at the point it crossed Jesse's mind. Maybe they did channel spirit. Maybe it's their mother trying to talk to the girls. What do you think the girls do? What's their next logical step?
Oh, God, they go back down to the basement, don't they?
No, that's horrifying. They didn't do that at all. No, they proceeded to ask what's knocking, yes or no questions. Knock once for yes, twice for no.
Ooh, okay.
And anybody want to take a guess what their first question was?
Are you our mom?
Bingo. And of course, lo and hold, one knock. So the girls are the girls are belated. I mean, they're stoked. I mean, that's what they were aiming for. They wanted to talk to Mom. Clearly, Mom's here. I mean, she didn't start talking to him at the beginning, but she came up to the room and is communicating with them. Now, and they were legitimately, on record saying they were happy and excited. I don't know about you. I still think I would be terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, I get it. The person you're trying to talk to is talking to you. But, like, I mean, at the back of your head, when you sit down to do that, I don't think anybody really is expecting results.
Yeah, like, are you, like, they're doing clearly they had to do some level of research in order to figure out what to buy to do this seance. Do they not hear about, like, evil spirits lying?
Yeah, no, that's the worst part is because if you know anything about the paranormal, one of the first things you hear consistently is fucking do not assume anything with spirits. Don't assume who they are, and definitely don't give them a fucking name or accept them. And like, to me, the girls are instantly being like, Mom, one, naming it, two, they're excited and talking to it. That's acceptance to me. So this thing's already got the fucking run of the house right from that's the demon that's like, woo, I hit the fucking naive jackpot, you know?
Oh, yeah.
He needs to dive right into it. But like I said, the girls were beside themselves. It worked. It just they get to talk to their mom again, you know? And I guess, like, why wouldn't they be excited, you know? Countless nights of being alone. They're used to a family life. They're used to at least spending all their time before bed with their mother. And then they went to spending it all alone. Most nights putting yourself to bed by yourself, no parent or anything. I mean, I'm sure there is a relief there.
Yeah, I still, the just willingness to accept. I mean, I guess to be fair, I mean, how easily did a particular friend of ours accept weird things happening at his house as being his grandfather?
Yeah, no, I'll give it. I imagine dealing with stuff like that right after a loved one passes is probably hard not to.
And how much exposure do these kids have to, like, psychics who could claim they could speak to the dead? Or, you know, maybe the family was into, like, tarot readings and stuff like that.
We don't have any basis on that. But, like, I could, like I said, I could understand two younger children whose mom was a huge part of their life getting this response and being told by whatever it is it's their mom. Like, I guess, like I said, they spend all their time alone now. I'd like, now they're like, oh, mom's here. So, I mean, like I said, I imagine they found comfort in it. But after that, the girls spent the most of the night asking mom yes or no questions. And by all means, they went to bed happy. And so seemingly did the spirit. Because after they were done, it left them alone for the rest of the night. The feeling of joy would soon shift from joy to fear. The girls would try to tell their father about mom, but he wasn't having it. He wasn't angry, I'll give him that, but he also was not a believer. He just thought, hey, if this is what they need to cope, that's fine. And he quickly brushed it off, and the family went about their lives like normal. Dad working late, the girls tending themselves with the occasional Q&A with Mommy Dearest. Yeah. And it was pretty regular for a while there. It's like, Dad's not here, let's go ask Mom questions. And how many yes or no questions can you have for somebody, though?
Yeah. Also, like, did they have to go back through the process again each time, or did they just ask questions out loud, or
in the room, specifically the girls' room?
Okay,
this is where they would go. They would just ask questions. But like I said, how many yes or no questions can you have for a dead person?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Mom, do you miss us? Okay, cool. Does being dead suck? Okay, well, that's cool. Good night, I guess. I mean, like, what would you ask?
Will you knock
Brandon?
us a bedtime story?
What yes or no questions would you want to ask?
I don't know. Like, that's because, like, there's a bunch of stuff you would want to ask that just aren't yes or no.
See, right there. That's the problem right there. I asked Brandon, he can't even think of one. He's like, outside of Mom, is that you?
I mean, it could be.
And the follow-up question,
like,
Mom, is that really you?
Like, it comes down to, like, that scene in Peacekeeper where it's like, all right, what's your favorite color? Yes,
like,
or,
yes
no
or no
questions. All right, is cyan your favorite color?
I guess you could do shit like that. That's just how it fucking sounds serious.
Or they just, every Q&A is the same questions. Is it you, Mom? One knock. Okay, but is it really you?
One knock.
Okay, but do you swear it's you?
One knock.
Can you promise me you're not another ghost pretending to be you?
One knock. But as time went on, Mom seemed to become less cooperative and more aggressive, with nonsensical, loud, and jarring knocking keeping the girls up throughout the night.
Is this like a once a month type of thing?
It was consistent, but like I said, it started to get a little bit more rough. She started knocking nonsensically, jarringly, knocking, keeping the girls up throughout the night, furniture moving or objects just out of sight being thrown across the room, to the point that the girls began to think, what if we didn't contact Mom? What if it's bad? What if it's a demon? Like, now this should have been something that crossed your mind a little bit sooner.
Maybe like before even trying the seance.
Yeah, be like, hey, maybe let's not go to the basement and with our crystal we got from fucking Big Lots or wherever the fuck and just wing this. Because there's never any stories that start with a Ouija board that end fucking good ever. This should be fucking on the fucking box for those things. Like, hey, you just bought a Ouija board. Prepare to have a fucking bad time. Because if you don't summon something, you're still going to be fucking paranoid as shit for the rest of the night.
There's no event involving a board game that ends well. Ouija board, you get a demon. Jumanji, you get a shitload of animals in your house. Monopoly, you lose all of your friends.
I like, so you mentioned like franchise ones and then you go to Monopoly and you're like, we're not friends anymore. You didn't even mention Zathura.
I never saw that film. Nobody did. For good reason.
But one evening, the girls were in the front room, home alone, like most of the time, when they started hearing tapping sounds again, but this time, it's not in their bedroom walls. And this is the first time it's not in their bedroom walls. This time, it is very clearly coming from the place it all started. the basement. So, guys, yet again, I turn to the table. Build your own adventure. What path do you take upon hearing the knocking no longer coming from the safety of our bedroom? It's coming from the basement.
Literally anywhere but the basement.
Brendan?
Preferably a different state at this point.
Yeah, maybe board that door up and get the fuck out.
Well, I will tell you that
They went down there, didn't they?
they might have. For whatever reason, albeit maybe because their father did not believe them, or they were angry that they were duped by a spirit clearly pretending to be their mom, the girls decided, fuck it, we're going to go downstairs and confront this thing head on.
Well, congrats to them.
Yeah, you know what? I will give them this. They have more nuts than me because my ass would not have gone down there. You know, it's one thing that it is consistently up in my room and it keeps me awake at night, and now it's starting to throw shit and stuff. I'll be damned if I'm going down to the basement. I'm not going back down there. That's where I fucking summoned the thing in the first place.
Yeah.
Hell no.
I'm going to a priest.
Right? Nah, I'm going to go to the source of the hellmouth right now.
You know what? This ghost fucking lied to us. I'm going to go give it a piece of my mind. I'm going to give that ghost the what for.
And that's why they explained it, is like they were going to confront it. Now explain to me, what does confronting a ghost look like? Because like so far, it started off with just knocking, yes. But now you're saying it's moving furniture and throwing shit across the room. Maybe don't go yell at it, because it seems like it can do a lot more to you than you can do to it. You know?
I
Be
don't
like,
know.
what you're gonna give Casper a stern talking to, and then he's gonna throw a fucking love seat at you.
Well, it's like those TikToks where it's the guy explaining how white women aren't afraid of anything. They'll just go out there and be like, "Look, we need to speak to your manager right now. You got we got a complaint to file."
I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm not embarking on that journey. I would, if I was at that house with them and they're like, we're going down there to confront him, I'm like, you go right ahead. I'm gonna stay up here watching Three's Company. I am not going down there. It's not fucking happening. But
I'm not staying in that house. Like, I'm going to confront the nearest priest.
But yeah, they went down, and as soon as they get down the stairs, the tapping's gone. Nothing. No sign of the spirit. As they turn to go back up the stairs, they both stop dead in their tracks, because they both noticed on the wall, dripping in red, was a message that read, "Come find me. I'm in your closet."
Nope.
Be like, why do you gotta knock? You live in my bedroom, basically. Why do you gotta knock on the basement for me to go down there to find a note telling me, go to the second floor? Like, one, that's ashes. You couldn't just tell me that when I got up there. You had to write a fucking message on the basement wall for ambiance so I can go upstairs and get diddled by the ghost?
All right, now
Fuck no.
now here's a little bit of an insensitive question. How big was this girl? Maybe it's the mother trying to get her kid to exercise more by going up and down
and
stairs.
now we're fat shaming kids.
That is,
What's
man.
the town? The town.
One
Brandon.
hot take after another.
Well, let's move on from that. So, anybody want to gather what the girls do next?
Well, considering their track record, I imagine they went straight to the closet.
No, they ran screaming outside the house.
Oh, finally, something smart.
Yeah, so the girls did exactly what I would do. They ran screaming out of the house to the safety of their neighbor's house, because if the ghost can write on the wall, what else could it possibly do? Now, it takes that for them to gather that. But it was throwing crap across the room.
Yeah.
But writing on the walls where they draw the line, they're like, oh, if it can write, we're fucked. Dude, it was moving furniture. If it can move a fucking couch, it's dangerous. Clearly, it's got couch moving powers. Let's act like it could probably throw a teenage girl across the room. But yeah, writing was what drew the sand in the line. They were like, nope, it writes. It knows how to form a
It's
sentence.
literate?
Yeah, I ain't fucking with no literate demon. I'm gone. But after explaining everything to the neighbors was kind enough to let them stay with them until their father came home from his late shift. As the father pulled up, the neighbor flagged him down and let him know exactly what went down. At this point, Dad's exhausted and tells the girls, that's enough, okay? It's gone far enough. Your mom is not haunting us. There's no ghost. But he still humors them. He goes down in the basement where he sees the message. And at this point, it's the tipping. Like, he's done. Because they've moved from stories to now they're fucking defacing his house. It's one thing to be like, Mom's haunting us. To be like, Dad, come home. We've bugged the neighbors. And we wrote in big letters on the wall shit, Like, I can see it. Like, he was trying to be understanding. And at this point, he's like, this is enough. Not only did you do this whole thing where you're making me have to deal with the fact that you think my wife's haunting you, your mother, now you're writing on the wall and making a scene out of it to where now the neighbors are seeing it. So after this incident, he enrolls both the girls in grief counseling. And after that, for several weeks, there's no activity. Not a knock or a nope, just life back to normal. But just like with the weather and how there's always a calm before the storm, it was the same with this. Because when it came back hard. The ghost was like, all right, I'll let you guys get a few weeks of grief counseling under the belt, and that's when I'm going to whip out the big shit.
Right. It's getting its Rocky montage.
Yeah, it's just out there
up.
lifting ghost weights, being like, I'll show you who's fake dad. You want to talk shit about me?
You thought me moving the couch was impressive.
Should have come to the closet.
Yeah, all I did was ask you to come up to the closet. You all were going to sleep up there anyways, but you run out and tell the neighbors, and like, fucking snitches get stitches. So once again, on the night that Frank is working, he's the late shift, the girls are watching TV in the front room when they start to hear a very clear tapping from Annie's room upstairs. Okay? So what do you think they do, guys? I'm coming to you again.
Let me guess. They go to see the tapping.
No, they run to the neighbors. No. I'm giving too much credit. They go upstairs. Albeit they take their time and slowly creep upstairs.
Oh, because that makes it better.
Yeah, well, you got to add that suspense. So they go, they investigate, and upon opening the door, they're shocked to their core when they once again see a note in running red letters. I'm back. Find me if you can. So at this point, the teens run screaming and crying back to their neighbors, begging to stay there just like last time. And they kept him until their father once again arrived home from the late shift. At this time, when Dad gets home and is greeted by the neighbors, he is not understanding. He's at the end of his rope. I mean, he's paid for grief counseling. He's tried everything. So he tells the girls, "This is enough. I've paid for the counseling. I've been patient. No more." And he tells the neighbors, he's like, "You stay with them. You stay with the girls." And he storms towards the house once again to prove there's nothing going on. At least so he thought.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. As Frank walks through the front doors, he's taken back to the state of his house because it hadn't been long since the girls booked it. The place is ransacked. Furniture is upside down, moved. Pictures are broken. It's trashed. So now Dad's nervous. Understandably. Because one, not only is there something in your house, but also now he's going to have to fess up to his kids. He'd be like, "Listen, I'm an asshole."
Well, I'm surprised he didn't jump to blaming his kids for the house being trashed.
Well, and the way the article reads is like he just couldn't see it because like his couch is overturned. It's
something beyond what two little girls could manage.
He's like, if they did it, they committed, and they like, what kid would risk that ass beating? You know, be like, "I put a nanny cam in here, you assholes. I saw you team power lift the fucking couch." No more grief counseling. You're going to military school. Yeah, but like the whole place is just torn up. It's all trashed. So Frank continues to go through the house, and he's nervous. Like he's starting to believe. He's like, "Oh God, there is something here." And he's like, "What did the girls do? Like maybe they did," because the girls have told him they think they pissed off a demon or summoned it. So Dad's nervous, and I mean, if I was Dad, I would ask the neighbor to come over. Honestly, I'd be like, "Hey, let's do this together. Let's do it all together. We keep the girls there. Let's tackle this as a team." Because I'm not fucking going on a ghost adventure by myself. I'm not about it. But so, like I said, Dad starts checking the house. He hesitantly moves up the stairs to Annie's room and slowly walks in. At first, he sees the message on the wall, and then out of the corner of his eye, he sees something moving.
I've played this game.
So he quickly turns and almost floored when he sees what clearly is his wife standing there in her favorite dress, the wig that she was wearing because she lost her hair to cancer.
Uh-huh.
And he's just beside himself until he soaks in the image even more and he notices a hatchet in her hand.
And been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Hell, that's not even his wife. That's not even a ghost. It's a fucking man.
Oh my God.
At this point, the guy knows the jig's up, and he bolts. Of course, being completely shocked. You can't blame Dad here. Frank does not catch the man. So Frank's just sitting in his daughter's room. Just like, you went from ghost to guy in your dead wife's cancer wig and clothes. And I know what you're thinking, viewers. You're like, "Logan, you son of a bitch. This is supposed to be paranormal. This is supposed to be a haunting." Well, let me tell you, first and foremost, this was a haunting. It was the definition of haunting. These girls were haunted by what they thought was a ghost for months.
Honestly, the worst kind of spirit.
And honestly,
an actual person.
Honestly, viewers, this is something I want you to hold close to your heart that I'm going to teach you right here. Ghosts, demons, and cryptids are terrifying. But nothing is scarier than fucking human beings in the slightest. A ghost might scare you. Ghosts might possess you. But a human, God knows what they'll do to you. Especially if they had the audacity to fucking haunt you in your own house while wearing your dead wife's clothes and wig, right? Nothing is worse than a human being. But I stand firmly by this is a case of a haunting. These kids were haunted. They had the haunting experience. A better one than most people do. But I digress. I'll dive back into it.
Oh my God.
So he runs across the street to the neighbors. And of course the girls think, oh, Dad saw the ghost. Dad saw the ghost. And Dad's like, that's not a ghost. Call the cops. There was a man in your room. Now, mind you, he's got to process all of this. Not just a man dressed as his wife and everything. That dude was in his daughter's closet with a fucking hatchet, leaving notes to find him there. What the fuck was he going to do? Because clearly he was up there waiting. He wasn't waiting for the dad.
Yeah.
He was waiting for the kids.
And he wanted a very specific moment. He didn't, like, he could have, at any time, he could have done something. But
he wanted them to find him in that state.
My question is, where was he hiding this entire time?
Okay, so the police show up in a massive search for this man, in a dress and a wig, but to no avail. So the police suggest to the family, stay somewhere else for a while. We'll stake this place out, but do not stay here. Because clearly he got in and he got out. Easy. And he's been there for God knows how long. So so the Andrew family for a week or so go stay with family while the police have zero luck. So eventually the Andrews decide to return home. They think, no way this guy's going to come back. There's cops everywhere. Cops are still staying at their house. Cops are still around their house. So they decide they're going to risk it, and they go back home. As the Andrew family pull up the driveway, they realize the upstairs bedroom's lights on. And Frank is like, that's odd. The cops said they were going to stake the place out, but I assumed, they would be on the outside. There's
a hidden room in that closet, isn't there?
Well, he's like, well, that's weird that they would go in there. But he's sitting there, and as he's just looking, he very clearly sees a man in his wife's dress walk past the fucking window from outside. So at this point, he turns off his headlights, and he instantly calls the cops, who are close, like dead-ass close. So the cops respond quick and in force. I mean, they surround this house with cop cars. Upon going in, the cops find the house. This is the part that pisses me off. In disarray. All the furniture's flipped. Red writing everywhere. And the asshole is even glued a metric fuck ton of pennies to the ceiling.
Okay.
Like, why? And let me ask you, what fucking cops are watching this fucking house? You don't see fucking an asshole jumping up and down? Like, he's got to get a ladder or something to be up there pressing pennies up there until they fucking stick. And they said it was a lot, like an alarming amount. So no cop walked by a window and saw the guy on a step stool pressing pennies to the ceiling, holding them there for the fucking minute for the super glue to set. And it's just like that part right there. I would be like, really, guys? Like, nobody saw him? Nobody saw it. I've got fucking $300 worth of loose change on my ceiling, but there's no guy, right?
You know what it's going to do to the popcorn texture?
I just could not imagine. They find all of this, but not the man, no trace of him. But that makes no sense, right? Because the house is surrounded, and nobody left because the dad was watching. Nobody got out of that fucking house. Well, that's when one officer found a loose board covering a crawl space entrance where somebody clearly burrowed through the insulation in the house.
Jeez.
And made peepholes in every single fucking room of the house. Okay? So at the end of the Pervy Brick Road, there they find Daniel LaPlante, a.k.a. Danny. Now you're like, okay, Logan, who's Danny LaPlante? Why does this guy mean anything to me? Why is he here? Well, this is when we're going to dive into a little bit part that's a little bit more spooky than the ghost. Daniel LaPlante basically found out about the Andrews family via following them from town. Daniel is a teenage boy, about the same age as Annie. And one day he saw them in town, and basically he followed them home. Now, at this point, it's speculated that when he followed them home, he broke into the house, probably found a key or something, and made a copy, and in doing so, he also found a phone number to the house. Well, before all of this started, Danny LaPlante called the house and spoke to the eldest daughter, Annie. and told her, hey, my name's Daniel. I live in the town over, and my buddy at your school gave me your number, said that I'd probably like to talk to you. He would tell her that he's a football captain, blonde hair, good build, and they developed a relationship. They would talk to each other every night. She would lean on him and tell him about the travesty of losing her mom and everything. And at one point, she agrees, hey, let's go on a date. Let's go get some ice cream. Well, the day comes, and Daniel shows up. And when she opens the door, she's befuddled because the guy that she meets is nothing like what she's described. He is 16, like he said, but he has black, greasy hair, looks disheveled. And Annie, being the nice girl she is, she still goes on the ice cream date with him. On the date, it got a little weird because, fucking Danny, out of all the things to fixate on, he kept circling back to questions about her mother. Do you think she suffered? How bad do you think it hurt? Do you think she was happy to die? Questions like this the whole time. So eventually Annie made up an excuse to go home. He asked, can I walk you home? She's like, no, I'm good. And she gets home. And it doesn't take any phone calls from him after that.
Yeah, it's a lot of red flags.
She's done. That's it. That's the only thing they had. They had one date.
Oh.
And she was done after that. Didn't want anything to do with him. And at that point, after a few non-return calls or being dodged, Daniel took it upon himself to come back to the house, burrow into the walls. And he was there for an undisclosed amount of time and watching the girl, so much so that he witnessed the fucking seance. He was watching from the crawl space entrance that was in the basement when they did the seance. And at that moment, he decided,
I'm gonna be a ghost.
He had that interest in their mom. And he's like, now he's going to be her. So they were haunted by Daniel that whole fucking time. And some of the writing that was all over the walls when they came back with the pennies and everything was stuff like, marry me. So clearly obsessed.
Quite the romantic.
But that leads back to what was he doing with the ex? What was his plan? Because clearly he booked it when it was a grown man that saw him.
Yeah.
He didn't commit there, but was he going to murder the girls? Was he just trying to scare them? Daniel had a long history with the town. He'd get into issues all the time. He had a rough childhood. I will give you this when I'm about to tell you about him everything, but he did have a rough childhood. His father abused him and unfortunately molested him. Upon going to therapy for said issues, his therapist also molested him. So he had a rough life.
That's a real win.
Yeah, he had a rough fucking life. But the town knew, the cops knew Daniel. And I will give the cops props for this because at this point the cops are like, we have to bury him. We cannot give him a chance to be out. He is going to escalate from here. So the cops hit him with everything they can. And they even, they hit him with charges you wouldn't even think they'd be able to stick him with. On top of, they had, illegal residence in a place. They went with attempted assault because he had the axe. They even managed to stick him with cases for kidnapping. Really? Because technically they were like, he was taking them hostage. And it stuck. Okay? And they managed to convince the judge to try him as an adult. This town knew what they were dealing with, and they were trying to bury him. If the charges would have stuck, he would have went to court, with his court case being about a few weeks away at this point, because he'd been in juvenile detention facility for almost a year at this point. If it would have stuck, he would have been in jail for 30 to 40 years. Just a couple of weeks away from his court date, his mom manages to post bail. So Daniel's out. And once Daniel gets out, he does not go home with his mother. He does not do anything he's supposed to. He disappears and goes on a spree of burglaries. And in one of these places, he managed to find and steal 2 handguns. And one day, nobody knows why, what his train of thought was, one day, one of the houses he went into was a house with a pregnant mother and her 2 kids. And like I said, I give the cops props because they saw the writing on the wall and they tried to deal with it. Unfortunately, our system is flawed. Why should you be able to bail somebody out when they have these many charges against them? Why can somebody that technically has charges for kidnapping filed on them and attempted assault with a deadly weapon and stuff, why can somebody scrounge up money and get them out? What's the point of it? You think that this person is going to be a law-abiding citizen and wait for their court date? At this,
And why would somebody want to post bail for somebody like that?
It was his mom. And I want to know, I didn't get to see how much bail was set at, but I'd like to know what it was, because clearly it took her a while to get it, because he was in there for almost a year. But she bailed him out, and maybe it was the mother hoping that he would get out and run. Maybe she didn't like the thought of her kid being locked up. The family was I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, but Gustafsons. And like I said, the mother was home alone, pregnant, and she was there with her 2 kids. I believe both her kids were under the age of 8. She had a daughter named Abigail that was 8, and she had a 5-year-old son named William. And when he got in there, what it looked like is he subdued them at gunpoint and tied them up. This is where it gets bleak, and I'm sorry for this. He raped the mother and then shot her 3 times in the face, point blank range. And then he took each child to a different bathroom and drowned them both. And then left for the father, one of the town's only lawyers, to come home and discover each one of them individually. Now, eventually, the town did a massive manhunt for Daniel. And the town did find him, capture him, and he is locked up serving 3 life sentences for the murder of all 3 of them. He has tried to find some loopholes to get out because they're like, technically, he was tried as an adult when he shouldn't have been, and his eyes and everything. And every time he's gotten any kind of like attempt for appeal, the judge shoots him straight the fuck down, as they should.
There's nothing redeemable about that case.
This is one of these things to where like it's horrible, but it's also refreshing to see that the town cops were involved. They tried.
Yeah.
They really did try. And like it wasn't one of the things where like, oh, who cares? They saw the writing on the wall and they tried to bury this guy because they saw the potential he had.
They knew what would happen if he remained free.
And like he got out and like he blew their expectations smooth the hell out of the water. Like I said, listeners and everybody around the table, like I'm here for the paranormal and everything, and what caught my eye for this was a ghost story. This started out as a ghost story and then turned into something much more horrifying. And like I said, it's okay to be scared of the paranormal and the unknown, but fuck, there's nothing scarier than people. Like, there really isn't. This guy went from being obsessed with a girl to being the girl's dead mother to murdering innocent people.
Well, with the paranormal, we have the luxury of being able to come up with reasons on why it may not be real. We're able to justify things and reason things, but when it's people, it's real. There is, without a doubt, those things, and people lost their lives because of it.
Well, and think about it like this. So, like, this guy went on a date with a girl, and his questions were about, how much pain do you think your mother went through? When he started haunting them in their house, he was doing the things that would harm them the most psychologically. You know, dressing up as their mother, like trying to frighten them, pretending to be her.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was somebody that was mentally torn asunder by authority figures in his life.
Yeah, he was out to figure out what is the way that I can cause the most harm to these
and
people.
This also backtracks. Now, like, this is barely a year after this incident. So imagine how Frank feels. What would have happened if his daughters would have walked upstairs? This guy was clearly capable of horrendous shit. He murdered a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old and a pregnant woman, 2 of which in a very goddamn personal way. So you think, like, there's no way this guy had reservations of murdering 2 teenage girls if he can do it to 2 small toddlers.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what would have happened if the girls, the one time they were brave and went to the basement? What if they would have been brave again and went upstairs? He had that axe. And clearly he was I think he was scared of men, which understandably, especially with his dad and his therapist both being men that did him like that. I think that's why he ran when he saw Frank instead of attacking him with the axe. He could have had Frank dead to rights, honestly. That man was fucking frozen. Because, I mean, he went from thinking his dead wife was standing in front of him to a dude. I mean, he didn't even react right away when the dude ran. So, like, he could have got Frank, but I think he was scared of confronting a man. He attacked a pregnant woman.
Yeah, he attacked people he was clearly stronger than.
And even at that, it took him having a gun. Like, I wonder if he wouldn't have found those guns in the burglary. Would he have done it? Because, like, that gave him more power than he had, you know? She could have fought back, but, like, he came in that house with a gun and held him at gunpoint. I hate how it turned out, but, like, just to think, like, those 2 girls were so close to death, like, that I can't imagine how they felt, you know, thinking about, like, he was there. There was twice where he tried to lure them to that room where he was waiting with an axe. You know, so like I said, he had them dead to rights, and like who knows if that was gonna escalate to murder, or maybe it was the pending thought that he was gonna be locked away for 40 years anyway. So he was just like, fuck it, who knows? Because he never gave anybody dick. Really, he didn't give them a why or how. Never said why he attacked them, the mom and kids.
Some sort of power fantasy where
I mean, you spend your life being the victim. I imagine he wanted to be.
Yeah, and he wanted to cause as much pain as he could actually inflict because there's something flipped in him that made him obsessed with people suffering.
But like I said, they buried him this time around. Nobody's gonna appeal him. He's serving 3 life sentences, 1 for each of the lives he took. And on top of that, he's also serving the charges for the Andrews family.
Yeah.
Now, this is crazy to me because, like, this is not that I want to shine a light on him, but, like, out of all the true events that have been made a movie, how has that not been made a movie, you know? Because that is a harrowing fucking tale. Like, not even if you don't dip into the murder, like, it could be an afterthought of the movie. Like, the man pretending to be somebody's dead mom and haunting them.
Yeah.
How has that not been made into a fucking movie?
It could be very much that no one wants to give the rights away or, give their permission for someone to tell that story.
I mean, they still could be bent. Like, people do it all the time. And there's been, like, no offense to these families, it's horrible, but there's been worse things that have been taken and been made into movies, you know? And just, like, it's just, like, because it sounds, like, after laying it out for you, it sounds like bullshit. It sounds like a made-up movie thing. A scorned, not even real ex living in the walls, stalking you, pretending to be your mother who died of cancer, only to try to get you with a fucking axe, and then later getting out of jail and going to murder some people.
I mean, just the thought of somebody living in your house.
Like, we talked about that briefly in our first episode, the fact that there's way more cases of that than is comfortable to think about. And, like, I tell you, like, and, like, after reading this story, if I hear something up in the fucking attic or the crawl space, I'm definitely thinking twice. Because, like, it's just staggering. He lived there for months, with nobody knowing there was another human being there. And, like, the fact, like, you have to feel so dirty knowing that, like, that dude was watching every aspect of your life. Because, like I said, they found a peephole in every room of that house. Every single one. And he was just moving freely. He could go write a letter in the basement, make a noise, and by the time they read it, he's back upstairs. That's fucking crazy. Like, he's just living there. I want to know, like, was he staying there all the time? Was he leaving during the day when they went to school and going out and getting stuff? Like, or did he never leave the fucking house after he entered it?
Yeah, jeez.
And, like, to think the cops searched the whole house one whole time and missed everything. And he was just there watching them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they're searching the house. They're not searching in between the walls.
And, like, another thing I want to circle back around to, and like I said, I'm sorry, it wasn't a ghost story, but, like, to me, it was very much a haunting. It needed to be told. But, like, another thing that, like, I want you to take away from this, as outlandish as something sounds, I'm a father of 3. Try not to isolate your children. Something that is scaring them that might sound clearly nonsensical to you, nonsensical as it sounds, is still scaring them. Making it up or not, they're scared. And, like, this dad, I imagine to this day, beats himself up for dismissing what his daughters were going through. Because the whole time, he just thought they were acting out. And instead of addressing it and sitting down and have a conversation with them and, like, looking into it, like, he didn't. And then at the end, it was something. And I get being like, but, like, they were clearly fucking scared. And you can think your kids are acting out. But at the end of the day, if you isolate your children, they are not going to want to tell you. And they are going to try to deal with things on their own, which more often than not is going to end fucking piss poorly.
Well, and in his defense, when he first thought that they were acting out, he did what basically any child psychologist would say: enroll them in the grief counseling and try and help them through. And I give you that.
And I give you that. He handled it a lot better than most and everything. But, like, people check for the boogeyman. If your kid says there's something under their bed, look. I mean, just give them that comfort, you know? And like I said, he didn't do a bad job. He really didn't. At the end, he did get fed up. And, like, he did a great job. For dads in horror situations, he did a fantastic job because usually they're way worse. But I'm just telling you, as, like, one parent to possibly other parents out there, don't isolate your kids. Don't isolate your family members. If somebody's going through something that is scaring them, treat it with as much validity as you would want somebody to treat you if you were going through something scary. If something is scaring you or bothering you, you should feel like you could talk to the people closest to you. You shouldn't feel like you need to keep it to yourself because you don't want them to think you're crazy or to yell at you. There needs to be that level of comfort because you never know when there might be a fucking whack job living in your goddamn ceiling. Or maybe there is a fucking, to quote Brandon Chupacabra, fucking living in the crawl space under the house and fucking growling at your kid at night. You never fucking know until you look. But give your kid that comfort. Give your family, your loved ones that comfort, and then they will come to you. And I mean, that's a hell of a lot better than facing this shit alone. I mean, I know those girls definitely wish they had somebody at those nights and everything, but they just felt like they couldn't talk to anybody because nobody was going to believe them. Yeah. Like I said, I will give Frank props. He handled it a lot better than most. He thought they were having grief problems. He took them to grief counseling, all that, but fuck me. I'm sure that haunts him to this day. I bet he feels like and he did a lot, but I know if it was me, even if I put my kids in grief counseling and stuff when they're doing stuff like that, I would feel like a massive asshole for the rest of forever because I was like, I didn't listen to them. Now, every time the girl's like, I heard something, I would be fucking lock and loading my fucking 12 gauge, the flashlight. Like, I'll check the crawl space, kids. Fucking go to the panic room for the rest of forever.
Well, first of all, I'd be out of that house.
Oh, for sure.
Like that, all right, we're getting a nice modern house with no crawl spaces.
What do you imagine the moment he heard that dude was bailed out, do you think, you gotta imagine that family was fucking terrified.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, he posted bail and fucking smoked ass. Like, that would be the first thing, is I would be loading those girls up and going to the next state because I would assume that's where he was coming. Because the moment he didn't check in with parole or go to his mother's house, I would have been like a betting man. I would have been like 100 on, he's going back to the fucking crawl space. Like, he's coming back to the house, he wants to finish what he started. He didn't.
Like I said, I would hope at that point that family had moved out. Like, that, I would not be staying in that house ever again.
Yeah, no, I imagine you never feel safe in that house ever again after that. Knowing that a 16-year-old boy can easily move through all the walls.
Yeah.
Fuck. Not to mention, he probably shot your insulation, all the shit. Fucking crawling through. He had an itchy motherfucker in there, too. Do I imagine he wasn't bathing, fucking dragging himself through all that constantly?
Oh, yeah.
God, I wonder what he looked like when they pulled him out of the wall. On that note, I actually have in here a image of him for y'all. Is that about what you expected?
He looks... Well, I mean, I guess this is after he's been cleaned up.
Yeah, this is him at his court date. Post-murder.
Yeah, he's definitely not what you'd expect to see crawling around somebody's crawl space.
I see it. I can see him being a creepy kid. He just has that look on him, like he would be like the kid asking you about your mom dying. He just has that vibe. And he was on document, not remorseful.
Reminds me of someone who we went to high school with.
Yeah, somebody wore camo all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
had a weird smell.
Everybody always
him.
had that weird smelly kid that they fucking kind of stared at and was like, God, is this the day he brings a gun to school?
Yep, always talked about knives and hurting people.
Yeah, that's those. I digress. That was my story. If you guys feel like I M. Night Shyamalan'd you, I'm sorry. But I really felt like this was a story that needed to be covered because, like I said, it was very much a haunting to me. It was very much, like, for the most part, very paranormal, at least what the family thought. And I wanted to go through what the family felt. It was a haunting. I mean, did you expect Wall Kid?
Yeah,
this? You were expecting that to be the outcome?
No one ever expects the Wall Kid.
No, you should. From here on out, after this podcast, expect Wall Kids. Wall Kids, Wall Adults, don't trust them. If you see a hole in your wall that looks suspiciously like a peephole, fucking call an exterminator. Have them go through the fucking thing spraying. You might have an adult drop.
Also, moral of the story, learn every inch of your house. It's your house anyway. You might as well. Like, if there's any crawl spaces, you should be aware of it.
Yeah, and they should be locked.
Yeah.
That you have a key for. But that's going to be it for this week's trip through the United States of Paranormal. This has been Logan.
It's Matt.
Boze.
Y'all keep it spooky.
To support other Golden Mojo Entertainment productions, check out Golden Image Podcast, The Call Guys, and Murd Nerds wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. To see photos and find new episodes of the United States of Paranormal, follow us on our social media. Twitter at TUSOPPOD, or Instagram at the United States of Paranormal, and Facebook, the United States of Paranormal. If you have a place that you'd like us to look into, or would like to share your spooky story that we can read on the air, please email us at theunitedstatesofparanormal@gmail.com.